Welcome to the Dark Nook Monster Shop. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's my favorite time of year. The season when the dollar store sells skeletons for things that don't have bones. Like this teddy bear. Now, I also bought this Labubu off a street vendor for $5. So, it's sure to be legit, right? All the tags look right, but apparently this blacklight reactive bit on the foot means it's a knockoff or Lafufu. So, I go ahead and pop its eyes out, because I have a perfect pair of glass cabochon blue-green dragon eyes to replace them. They're a little rounder, but they still just manage to fit in the eye sockets without distorting the face too much. I want to take this teddy bear skeleton and make it Labubu's skeleton. So, I have to take it apart and cut off all the bits that are in the way. Basically, all I want is the rib cage, the back of the head, and part of the legs and feet. So, I have to cut the arms off. And by the way, let me just take a second to talk about these. These are flush cutters. These are one of my most useful tools, particularly for cutting plastic, or sending plastic bits of skeleton flying into orbit. I see a lot of scratch builders hacking away on plastic with Dremels and little saws and utility knives. Trust me, get yourself a pair of these. It's much easier and a lot safer. So I ripped the head off the Labubu, which is very satisfying. Then I set about pulling all the bits out and cutting the fur apart. But I want to leave most of the head intact. See, I'm going to use the back part of the teddy bear skull to hold the Labubu head in place. That way I can open up the mouth by cutting right along the edge of the teeth, which makes a perfect matching bottom row of teeth, by the way. That way I can open up the mouth a little bit. But I also want to cut all the fur pieces apart and separate out the hands and feet. Next, I slide a wire through the holes where the arms used to be to make new arms for this monstrosity. I also break the legs down into just the bits I'm going to use. Then, I glue those bits in place. Now later, I end up wrapping some more wire around these legs and hot gluing that in place for a better hold. But for now, I just build up the backs of the feet. First, I glue on this little plastic piece to the heel, and then I add a bit of bent wire to each foot and secure that with hot glue. Next, I clip off the teddy ears, to use later. But first I attach a wire to the bottom jaw, though nothing wants to stick to the vinyl that this face is made out of. First I use some hot glue, and then I sandwich the hot glue with some foam. I use some more hot glue. Then I try using some stick-to-anything plumber's putty. This stuff is great. It's like green stuff, but it's cheap as hell. It's a very sticky AB epoxy putty for plumbers to use to patch cracks underwater. And it works. Mostly. I still had to use a little super glue. But I go ahead and shape it around the teeth. And then I pop the eyes in. So my idea is I want to make this look like a Hellraiser Labubu. Like it's had its skin ripped off, revealing its skeleton underneath, or maybe it ripped its own skin off. Like a real messed up gory style to contrast the cuteness. Now let me just take a second to tell you that while I'm editing this video, I just now saw the Labubu episode of South Park. This build was done before I ever saw The Ritual, and I just happened to get a blue Labubu. I swear, total coincidence. I glue the hands from the Labubu to the wires. And with the now shortened legs, the skeleton is just about the right size. I use the ears that I cut off of the teddy skeleton to make his heels, by flipping them around and gluing them to the feet. I trim up the headpiece, and then hot glue it in place. This is also when I add the extra wires to the legs to secure them to the skeleton, and then hot glue those wires down. I like my pieces to be freestanding, even if it takes a little unorthodox construction method. Once the legs are secure, I start adding foam clay. I added a little water to this clay so it's very soft and it sticks well. so I just glob on the clay and work it into the cracks and crevices in the skeleton. The foam clay will basically be the tissue, and once it's dry, I'll glue bits of fur to it, so it doesn't have to look great. It's going to be mostly covered. But I do want it to look good around the edges where it connects to the bones of the skeleton, so I'll really add all my detail to that area. Then I build up the arms. They'll be completely covered in fur, so I don't do any extra work on them. I build up the foam clay muscles because I plan to make big bloody flaps of skin hanging off of this thing. I use a little bit of red foam clay watered down to coat the inside of the mouth. Then I sculpt a few little organs and guts to glue in place inside the skeleton. And I also glue some little blue pointy nails to the feet. I build up the toes around the nails and smooth it out with a brush and some water. Once that's dry, it's time to get started with paint. I start with a blood red wash, and then a dark purple wash. I'm not really concerned about painting parts that I'm going to cover in fur. But first, I have to cover the back of the fur with red foam clay paste. This is a slurry made with foam clay and Mod Podge. I paint it on the back of the fabric to be the inside of the skin, basically. A bit lumpy and clumpy. It makes for a great goopy guts look and completely hides the weave of the fabric. I add some paste to the skeleton to create some contrast and some texture. I also make clumpy guts dripping out of the Labubu's mouth. Oh, I also gave Labubu a big tongue out of my bits box, and then globbed some goopy bits onto the tongue and glued the tongue in place with hot glue. Then I glue in those guts right under the edge of the rib cage. I glue bits of fur over the arms, and I don't bother to paint the interior of this fur because none of it's going to be seen. I just glue it straight to the arms, and to the sides and the legs, and the feet. Then I start cutting apart pieces of the fur with the red bloody back. This fur I will glue down on one edge, so it's folded back or flapped over like curtains. I do this over and over, all around the edges so there's a flap of skin or some crazy texture, until I use up all the skin with the paste on it. Then I glop on some more of the foam clay paste to the edges of the fur and around the edges of the bony bits. This just makes for a great texture to kind of blend the two pieces together to create some connective tissue between them. Once that's dry, I go ahead and hit some of the low points with a dark blue wash. Then I spatter some blood red for some bloody red spatter, which I clean off the eyes. Next, I hit the bones with a little bone white, just dabbing it on with a cotton swab. This creates a great look of bone peeking out from behind skin and muscle. Then I blend it off a bit with a red wash. And I add slightly lighter and lighter tones of red to give the viscera and guts a little bit of depth. Then I hit the tongue with some pink and a nice bone white for the teeth. And when that's all dry, I brush just about everything with a coat of UV resin. Then I hit it with UV light to cure it. There's a lot, so I just park him right in front of the light and flip him when he gets crispy. And with that, the Labubu is all done. Thanks for checking out my video. Please remember to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below.